So, I have been going through some spiritual disillusionment. What is that? It is stepping out of the illusion, the figment of what you believe your relationship and your walk with God to look like and stepping into the reality of it. I think a lot of my illusionment it was just giving Garden of Eden, right? You have more than enough, there's plenty of trees, the grass is lush, everybody is at peace, it's pre sin. So, like, it's God's original design, right? Because there is no lack, there's no insufficiency, there is no grief, right? There's no burdens to bear. Like, even though he had responsibility and he had things that, God commanded him to do, he had duties, he had to name the animals and to keep the garden. He wasn't just sitting there twiddling his thumbs, but like there was still peace, right? My disillusionment is that I was expecting Garden of Eden and really I'm getting Garden of Gethsemane. I was expecting a lot of just, it's like, God, if you love me, you'll do all of these things for me, but God is not obligated to love you in the way that you feel loved, right? In the same way that we love our kids and we'll let our kids bump their heads if that's what it takes for them to learn. But it's even more than that, because in Job's situation, he was righteous. It's not that Job was wilding and Job was in rebellion and God was trying to teach him a lesson. Job literally didn't do anything wrong. The disillusionment for me is to know that you can do everything right as far as you're able to in your flesh. You can do everything right. You can be obedient. You can be submitted. You can do everything that God tells you to do, and God will still lead you into the wilderness. Like, we're so used to thinking that negative things mean that you did something wrong, and that's not the case. That's Job's friends. They literally will Job, if you're going through all this, certainly you have done something. But Job didn't do anything. And it's the disillusionment coming out of Job's friends and really being able to relate to Job. It is recognizing and realizing you can do everything right. You can do literally nothing wrong, and yet you can still end up in the Garden of Gethsemane. You can be in total obedience and total alignment with God and still be grieved to the point of death. You could be sweating blood. You could be so pressed, so crushed, and yet you're still in perfect alignment with God. It's that the disillusionment for me is that pain is not necessarily associated with the devil. Pleasure is not necessarily associated with God. It's that when God has an end game, he'll do whatever he has to do to get you to the end game. When the devil has an end game, he'll do whatever he has to do to get you to the end game. So God, his end game is he wants your soul to be saved. He wants to draw you to himself. God will do what he has to do to draw you to himself. He will use pain to draw you to himself, but he will also use pleasure to draw you to himself, right? With my loving kindness, I have drawn you. The enemy will use pain to separate you from God. His ultimate end goal is to separate you from God. He will use pain to do that. And he will also use pleasure to separate you from God. He'll make it feel good so you can feel like it's right and you can justify it so you can die in your sin. Pain and pleasure are not exclusive to God or the enemy. And so when you're going through pain, when you're in your Garden of Gethsemane, it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. When you find yourself in the wilderness, it does not mean that you have done anything wrong. And even though you may feel left out or abandoned, like Job said, I go here, I go there, it seems like he ain't there. But like he said, he knows the way that I take. When he has tried me, I will come forth as pure gold. My feet have carefully followed his steps. This is obedience and submission. I have kept his ways and not turned aside. I have not departed from the commandment of his lips. I have kept the words of his mouth more than my necessary food. This is the disillusionment for me, is that you can be taking the worst L's because you're in total alignment with him. Their encouragement is to know that God is not going to leave you there. The encouragement is to know that you're going through it. You're not camping out there, as long as you don't camp out there. God is not camping you out there. God has no intention on leaving you there. God intends to give you double for your trouble. God intends, if you, as several scriptures says, if you endure, you'll reap a reward. Like, if you just keep going, I got you. Like, we don't grieve as those who have no hope. We have hope, right? And that's the reassurance. But like the disillusionment, the reality that the Garden of Gethsemane, it comes with your walk with God. It all boils down to, do you fear God for real? And can you walk with him long enough for him to pull things out of you that can't go with you to the place that he has promised you? Because in order for you to keep the promise, in order for you to maintain the promise, in order for it to be a good and perfect gift that adds no sorrow to it, certain things have to come out of you. Certain altars have to come down. Certain agreements have to be broken. Oh Lord, certain frameworks have to be restructured. Certain foundations have to be broken up. Things that have been built up have to be torn down, and other things have to be laid and built up. It's like the way that God loves you. You know, you'll feel like, God, if you love me, you wouldn't do this. God, if you love me, you wouldn't have me here. God, if you love me, why didn't you do this? And why did you let this happen? And we're like, well, one, how did I get here and how did I get out, right? How do I get here? How do I get out? And how do I make sure I never return here again? That's the main three questions. When you are in your wilderness, or when you are in your Gethsemane, your Garden of Gethsemane, those are the questions that you're asking yourself. But the real question should be, God, what is it that you want me to learn? What is it that you're pulling out of me? What is it that I need to surrender? What is it that I need to give up? What is it that I need to undo? What is it that you want me to know? What is it about you that you want me to know? I have gotten to know the Lord. My disillusionment is the fact that God wants me to learn how to do his will his way, not his will my way. So when God gives you the end game, because God don't give you the in between, he gives you the end picture, he gives you the promise, he tells you where you're going. And so the gag is, when God gives you a promise and he gives you the end game, he wants you to get to that end game his way. You cannot get to the end game your way. And the thing that God has really been breaking in me is, you have to do my will my way. You can't do it your way. And it's really Isaiah 55. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. God don't operate the way that we do. Nothing is really off limits to him. If he can weave it together, looking at the big picture, and know that it'll work for your good and to your advantage, and that's what's best for you, it doesn't matter if it doesn't feel good. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look good. It doesn't matter if it looks irrational and illogical and foolish to everybody else. It doesn't matter. Perception doesn't matter to God. Feelings matter to God, but they don't trump they don't trump his plan, right? Because he says, for as the rain and snow come down from heaven and do not return there without watering the earth, making it bear and sprout, and providing seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so will my word be which goes out of my mouth. It will not return to me void, without accomplishing what I desire and without succeeding in the matter for which I sent it. If God gave you an end word, he's going to fulfill it, but his ways are not your ways and his thoughts are not your thoughts. And if you find yourself in a wilderness, or if you find yourself in the Garden of Gethsemane, it's not that you have done anything wrong. You could be totally righteous like Job and still be tried and still be refined. God's ultimate love, his true definition of love, is not going to communicate the same way that you receive in what you believe love to be. Because I grew up feeling unprotected, to me, if you love me, you'll protect me. To me, if you love me, you'll keep me from certain things. You'll shield me from harm, from hurt, from danger. So to me, if you subject me to hurt, to not necessarily harm or danger, but if you subject me to things that don't feel good, if you subject me to things that I don't want, how could it be that you care about me? You know, like, I can't say that God doesn't love me, right? Because I know that he loves me. But how is it that you care about me, or that you care about the things that I care about? How is it that you care about how I feel if you're doing all of this? But the gag is, he is protecting me, and he does love me, and he does care about me, and he does care about the way that I feel and the things that I care about. But he doesn't let my cares and my concerns and my feelings rule, dictate, or determine how to accomplish his will. I have to surrender. I have to surrender how I feel. I have to surrender. Ooh, that's the one. I have to surrender my uncomfortability. I have to surrender what it is that I want. I have to surrender how it is that I feel and submit it to him. Because I know, one, that he loves me, two, that he cares about me. He cares about the things that I care about. He cares about how I feel. But three, that he gave me the end game. He told me what it was. And I know that his word is not going to return to him void. But for me, the disillusionment is really recognizing and realizing that his ways are not my ways. And he's sovereign. And he has the right to do that. He's the only one who has the right. It is the sovereignty of God, the holiness of God, the authority of God to say, who is this that darkens counsel, questioning my authority and my wisdom by words without knowledge? Now gird up your loins like a man, and I will ask you, and you instruct me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you know and have understanding. Who determined the measurement of the earth if you know? Or who stretched the measuring line on it? Since your days began, have you ever commanded the morning and caused dawn to know its place? Your feelings may be real, and your feelings may be valid, and your feelings matter to God. But they don't rule, and they don't dictate, and they don't lead, and they don't get you out of and they don't get you out of situations. They have to be submitted. They have to be submitted to the sovereignty of God, to the obedience of God. If you're going through any disillusionment like I am, I encourage you to read Job. And to know that God is your friend, but he's not your peer. You have to go through the Garden of Gethsemane to get back to the Garden of Eden.